Ashley Gattuso. We are here today with Leah Ryder. She is the brand and content senior team lead at Trello, and she puts out weekly, monthly? How often does this newsletter come out?
It's monthly.
It's monthly. It's called Werk. It's for women in content marketing. She's going to tell us about the side hustle that is for her and what kind of strategies she's seen work well with her audience. So welcome, Leah. It's so exciting to have you.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm excited to speak with you today.
Yes. So I think someone on LinkedIn recommended this newsletter, and it was pretty much a no-brainer to me as a content marketer and a woman, obviously, to look into your newsletter and then subscribe immediately. And what I love about it is that opening that gives me an interview with someone, because my background in journalism, like my favorite thing to do was always to go and interview someone and do like really cool bios on interesting people. I think it's lovely especially in email, when you're provided with some content that causes you to like stop, pause, actually spend time in the content instead of just scroll. So I have lots of questions about that. I know that you're going to screen share and show us what Werk looks like, and then kind of talk about how your work in content marketing has bled into your strategy for Werk. So take it away with a screen share. Introduce yourself.
I'm kind of excited to talk about this today because I think a lot of us as content marketers, we get our work and we're very good at marketing for clients or for our day job. Mm-hmm. But we also often probably want to do things on the side. We're writers or creators. And I have a very busy job, 9 to 5. I manage a team. We run 6 blogs in different languages. We publish newsletters. We support a community of over 50 million registered users. So it's a busy time. And I was really excited to be able to create a way to have a side project like Werk and have it be enjoyable and help amplify voices in the content marketing community without like a huge lift on my time, because who has time to do this kind of stuff?
So did that play into choosing the newsletter as a platform for this creative outlet? Like, how did you make that choice that it should be a newsletter?
I've dabbled with blogging in the past, and it's great for lots of purposes, but the goal for this wasn't to establish a portfolio of public work for myself or write articles per se. I really wanted to create a community feel, work on being a connector between women in content marketing, and really just provide the content to people who wanted it and not worry so much about the rest of it. So that kind of drew me to the newsletter format because, one, I think it keeps you committed. I think it's easy to like let a blog die when you don't have time.
Oh, we'll start taking dates off the posts and
exactly. There's like always ways to do like little things to stop and be like, exactly. But with the newsletter, people, and when you do it for a niche group of people, and in this case, women, a lot of them who I know, they ask you like, when is the next newsletter coming out? Or I'm looking forward to the next one. So it really is keeping me accountable
love that.
Creating it. And it also, I think it just helps people commit to reading it. I only subscribe to newsletters because I want to read them, but I will often have like 25 tabs open on my browser with articles that I mean to read but never do.
True. So I was talking with someone recently about email and this obsession that people have with inbox zero, and how like I cannot achieve that because, well, I intentionally subscribe to newsletters, right? Because I am studying the art form of it, but I also love like the idea of like Sunday morning with the New York Times with coffee and like really diving into something. And so sometimes to me, I save a newsletter until the time when it's not like in the midst of my work day and I've got to like, oh, just scroll through that and delete it because I can delete it, but because it's something that I want to absorb and to spend time with. So I feel like Werk for me is that kind of newsletter. It's not something that I want to like open, click a few things and delete as quickly as I can. It's something that I want to spend time with because you've put the effort in to make it an enjoyable read and something that can be inspirational to me as a content marketer. So I'm your ideal target audience, right? So when did you launch?
Oh, I guess, it's really funny. I launched in March.
Oh, timely.
Yeah, I remember this now.
So many things happened in March.
Yeah, I remember this now because I think like a lot of us, I had a ton of things lined up for 2020. I was heading into like, I had, I don't know, I think 5 different trips on the books between January and April for different content marketing conferences. I was speaking at 2 conferences and I was going to like a women's marketing retreat as like a leader and I was doing a bunch of things. And of course, everything fell apart very quickly. And I was like thinking I needed to do something to kind of fill that gap because I think like a lot of us, I was kind of mourning the loss of those moments that I was going to have. And I wanted to replace it with something else. So I just basically spent like a weekend planning it out and I can like walk through kind of how quickly.
Yes, please. I would love for you to show everyone who's watching.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a big laborious thing. It can happen kind of spontaneously, especially with the interview format. I mean, it's easy because all women in content marketing are excellent writers, but
true. Okay, so
interview format, it creates the content for you. So it can be also fairly easy to edit and get them out the door.
How do you do it? Do you send them a Google Doc with the questions in it or do you chat?
I do both. So we do like a quick, well, not quick. We do I usually do like a half an hour. Mostly they end up being an hour, like pre-chat, just to get to know the person if I don't know them already and talk about what's on their mind. I do try to make the interviews fairly topical. Probably that happened because of what's happened this year. It was impossible to ignore current events. So I actually find us talking a lot about pandemic, human rights, empathy, how brands can address what our customers are going through and not ignore it, those kinds of things. So we talk on Zoom and then I will send them a Google Doc with the questions that we kind of co-create. And they fill it in and then I turn it into a newsletter.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, well, I want you to screen share and
All
show
right,
everyone. I have to say that the color, and I hope it stays the same every issue, right? This like nice seafoam green color. We did a beach condo one time and I did like everything in seafoam green. It's one of my favorite colors in decorating. You use it really well in the design because you've got black, so it's like accessible. Sometimes people will use it and put white over it or something, or like do some design things that make it not as easy to pop. But I love the design. So I'm looking at your Trello.
This is my Trello board. I'll say really quickly on the color. I can't see it on my wall actually, but I went to this like wonderful feminist shop in New York once and I got this poster that says Werk, like it's like Werk in all different fonts and it's that seafoam green and white and pink. So I literally just picked my favorite
I love it.
picture from my gallery wall and used it as like the color palette.
Nice.
Even the font is about the same. So
excellent.
Yeah, so I just thought this might be interesting because obviously I work at Trello, but I use Trello in my personal life a lot. It's a really easy way to just like kind of get your brain out and organize it. So this is what my current board looks like. I just kind of scrubbed it for some folks' names, but it's a good way to like give yourself a roadmap and like a to-do list format to keep the project going. A lot of the cards that I put in ideas and resources were like originally in my like to-do list when I first sat down and I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Like, what is the name going to be? I need a landing page. I need Instagram account. And I just kind of put it all in to do. And then I just started chipping away at it over a week, basically. And then I kind of started building it here. I really like to have, basically I'll get like emails. I usually like coordinate with folks over email, and then I just like email them to the board, and then it creates cards with all the email content in it. And then I just use that as like my reminder to like make sure to follow up with those people, to schedule it. And then if I have other ideas and to-dos, I stick them on here, because what I always say is a Trello board doesn't lie. So like I really want to do like a networking event for the subscribers, like maybe do a couple of Zoom roundtables with some of the interviewees and do like a Q&A.
Oh, that would be really
because
cool.
it's on here, I can't ignore the fact that I've put this in my to-do list, and I find like that small step makes it a lot more easy to commit.
It's a visual reminder, like you can't push it under the bed and not see it anymore.
Exactly. So I just thought I'd quickly share this to just give folks an idea if they want to.
And I love it, like how calm the tree behind your Trello board is.
Oh, the backgrounds are very important.
They are.
This is my plug for backgrounds, because you can access like the entire library of Unsplash for photos, and it can really affect your mood. So if you're like in a funk, sometimes I just change it just to like change things up. But so that's the planning phase in the background. And then pretty much all of my interviewees I source over Twitter or just through my network, LinkedIn. One thing actually is with the email that you get when you sign up, I'm very like explicit in it what I would like people to do, because it's a community. So I ask people to read past editions and give me feedback. I ask them to share it with other women in content marketing if they think they would like it. And then I ask them to get in contact with me if they want to be interviewed. So it's actually kind of like a cycle of, it's like serving itself. So I put out an interview, people come to me and tell me they'd like to be interviewed. So I always have like a nice lineup of leads coming in that way.
I love that. I think when I talked with Simon Owens, who has like a media newsletter a few weeks ago, he was saying how he has like a paid version of his newsletter. And the thing that makes the paid version different from the free version is that it contains case studies, and a majority of those case studies are actually on the people who paid to subscribe. Like, so it kind of feeds itself in that way. I see that as similarly, like you're basically prompting more engagement and more, like you're lining up future interviews by mentioning it in your welcome.
Yeah, and if you have your target audience really defined, then you're really just serving that audience with content that they're interested in, because it's reflecting who they are.
I love that. I also think Oprah is important to include.
Oprah's important. She's like my guiding light. It's like your content quality filter. I just imagine Oprah reading it, and I have to say, is it good enough for Oprah to read it? Would I be embarrassed if she read it? And that's just a really good bar for me.
I love that.
This is it. Like, I just also want to tell folks, like, it doesn't have to be fancy to be good. So I really took MailChimp's like basic landing page. I think if you're not a designer, simpler is better, because simple can look very elegant. But I really just create your message. Like, why are you here? I just have, as you mentioned, that seafoam green. I just work to make a logo and a very small form field here. So I really don't have much in the way of like an opening statement for people to sign up, but that's because I rely so much on the community to do referrals for signups.
All right. So it's almost like a word of mouth. Like, if you know about this, you know about it.
People are really only coming to this page because they know to come to this page. I do. I do have another really simple page. Again, it's like better, like progress is better than perfection. So I do also just have another simple page. This is what I link in the sign up email for people so they can see like all of our past issues. So again, I'm just like to tell people like you just doesn't have to be fancy. So this is like what the newsletter itself looks like. It's just a template that I made. Again, I just wanted to keep it like simple because I want it to be easy to read, and I'm not afraid of length. So the emails themselves can be quite long. So it's better if it's like a very simple font and easy to read.
Right. Because you're asking people to engage with it in that slow reading kind of way. There's like a new expression now. I read it the other day. It was called slow journalism.
Slow journalism.
That's journalism. But I think the title, I don't know if I went too in depth in the article, but the headline was like, guess who likes slow journalism? People who like regular journalism. Like there was no like, oh, there's a subsect of people who like this better. So basically it's like people who like to read.
Well, that's it. I mean, if I was advising a small business who sold, I don't know, croissants on their newsletter strategy, I may advise something different, but this is an audience of writers and creators and readers. So I'm just, I can play directly into
what they like.
The people who love to read.
Yep. Your audience.
Yeah. The other thing I thought it might be fun to cover is when I did this newsletter, I wanted to think about something that I could give the interviewees. And so I do these illustrations for each newsletter. One I do is like a quote card where I pull a quote out of the interview and just put it in here, just the words, and it's only features the interviewee in their title. It's not branded, not for me. I do put it in the newsletter so that it breaks it up and makes it like nice to read. But the value of it is for the interviewee to share and have this for their portfolio.
So do you mail that as like a printed item or send it as a digital?
It's just a digital file. I was thinking about starting to do some mailed, like physical mailed assets, but these are just digital files. And I just say like, feel free to use it on your social if you want to share about the newsletter, or use it on your website, or just have it.
That's more valuable. Like that's almost better. I know that we've gotten stuff before for like my CEO for going on a podcast, and it was a quote from the interview, but it was in a frame. Oh, so it's kind of narcissistic in a way. Like I've got a quote of what I said on my desk or something, but I think that like the idea of giving them something that they can share, that you're not like plugging your own branding on, that is just like a great sincere thank you that they can then use themselves is super smart.
Yeah, it's not for me to like use as a promo thing. I have stuff that I make for promo. And I thought I could just also show you in Canva how I do that, because it's really simple. And then the other things that I've just gotten feedback from is that people are looking for work. I mean, I started this in March, so we've all been through the ups and downs with the economy. So I do take jobs from people who are posting. I do ask tough questions about salary. I really only want to post jobs that are great for folks and compensate fairly in the market. But I do put those in, and then usually I just put in a few of my own pieces or other things that if I want to say thank you to folks who like feature the newsletter or articles that I write, I'll just like tuck it in at the end.
such a clean design and such my favorite decorative color.
Me too. Speaking of color, I can show you. So,
Nice.
I mean, I'm sure everyone knows Canva, but if you're like me and you are a rudimentary designer,
Raise your hand if that's like I learned to do design on Quark at my college newspaper. And like that's the reason I like things like Wix and Canva is because I'm like, oh, you just drag it around and some guide says it's lined up and you go, okay.
So important. I think because like I know it's because I'm a marketer, it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to start this, I need like a branding guide and I need to get a designer to help me create a logo and I need to get like a brand color set and I need to choose a font and like sometimes all of those things you build them up and they're just excuses to not just start.
Right.
So again, I just like rolled into Canva and I used that picture on my wall as it, and I just started playing around with designs to make the different like promo designs and stuff that I use. I did make a few different newsletter headers and then decided that simple was best. So I just kept it to my basic logo that I created in Canva.
I love it.
Again, it's just like, I think this design, I got like the most response like on, okay, well, it has to take a minute to load, but I got like the most response on social from this design. It's simple. It says exactly what it's for. It's just a little bit more eye-catching than just words.
Yes.
But
yes.
I've got a lot of feedback on the design, honestly. A lot of people have told me that they like it and I'm like, great.
Isn't that feel funny? Like when
Thank you,
you know
Canva.
you're not, when you know you're not like a designer person and someone compliments it and you're like, oh, wow, I've gotten good at this. One thing that I have started doing in my newsletter is, and I'll do it for this, so you'll see it in action. And it's a Canva hack is I just go and find the video play button. And so I do like a screen capture of us right now or whatever. And then I put the play button on it. And so it's in the picture and the picture is linked to the YouTube video because you can't send a video in the email, but it feels like it's about to play when you hit that picture button link. And so lots of great little Canva hacks that you can use in your newsletter to spice it up.
Yeah, and it's really like as simple as like this was like the template and I just started filling it out. It's just make a copy and then I just get a photo in the Google Doc with the questions. I ask them to include a photo of themselves and then I just make copy after copy and it's pretty simple.
Look at all these inspirational women.
I know. And then now I have this like wonderful collection of these wonderful women with great things to say.
That would make a great like wall art in some building somewhere.
I think I'll have to do like an event, like maybe a LinkedIn event and just reuse all of these, but they're timeless, which is really great.
Perfect. So you're showing us, I think this segues nicely into like how you might be promoting the newsletter and what your marketing channels beyond word of mouth, because obviously you're creating some creative to put out there. So does it have an Instagram page or what are you doing to attract people beyond the word of mouth?
Yeah, I had to make kind of a choice with Twitter. I think if you're going to do like a side project, you kind of have to choose. I have like my own Twitter, which has a good amount of followers. And then I was like, do I start a brand new one? I did start a brand new one, but I do everything through my own personal channels. And then I just retweet it and repost on Instagram onto my Werk channels. So I don't use those channels. I don't need to build a following through those channels necessarily, or I don't need to do it as quickly. So that's kind of what I do and it's really largely Twitter. I think marketing Twitter is super engaged. So it's a great place.
So as a side project, How does that feel when we're talking about marketing, and especially content marketing, to have something that really has no extreme pressure on it to produce revenue? Like within a set time? I mean, that would be a great thing for us to talk about, is what goals you have for this as it grows and what you see it becoming. But I think this is something content marketers would want to know, is like that side project that's your fun creative outlet, that's like a weekend warrior thing that you're saying is kind of like not taking up too much of your time. How does that feel to not have that pressure of like the C-suite asking when will we see return on this content?
It's a great question. And I think that I think a lot about creativity and how to kind of have this bottomless well of creativity. When you're paid to be creative full time, it can kind of suck some of the joy out of it. Like, how many times will someone ask you to like write something up really quick?
Yeah.
We
need an email 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. You just like write something.
Yeah.
Just words.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having an outlet is really wonderful because because the pressure is off and you actually get to discover who your personality is outside of the veil of your work for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really enjoyed it for that. I also think there's like, as a marketer, there's like really value in having this for the long term to build your network and to get to know people and to create like a digital network of people that you would have not normally met. I mean, who knows what will happen 5 years, 10 years from now? Who knows who you'll meet through doing something like this that could change your life or change your career trajectory. So I do encourage people to like come up with creative outlets that let them meet other people in the industry. I've been a remote worker for a long time, like well before this year. And I always encourage people to create a network, because otherwise you're kind of just sitting alone at your computer and it's hard to meet people in person.
Right. So then that's another interesting angle. You're creating a community. It's newsletter focused. It's based on a passion of yours that you share with a network of people. How does that compare to engaging with the same crowd on social media?
I think it depends on your personality, I guess. Where do you feel comfortable? I mean,
yeah,
marketing Twitter, as I call it, I guess it's like there's a large community. It's loud. There's lots of conversations, lots of Twitter chats, and some people feel comfortable there and some people don't feel as comfortable. I really liked the idea of doing something a bit more long form and spending a little bit deeper time with each individual person. I feel like I've like made real connections with the people I've interviewed, and we continue to like stay in touch. Whereas on Twitter, it can be a little bit more fleeting. So I think that's part of it, is like find your medium and where you feel you'll make the best connections for how you like to interact with folks.
Or connect on both and interact in different ways on both, and cross promote in different ways. I think that, like no channel is an island.
No.
So there's kind of a symbiotic like relationship going on there between the two. Have you had a lot of response? I know that some people, when we're talking about social, and we think you get a lot of like comment, that kind of engagement. But there's something special to me about when someone responds to your email newsletter and tells you what in particular inspired them or struck them, or that they wanted to compliment you about, or that they wanted to tell you never write again. So like, how does that differ for you? Do you get responses?
I do get responses. It's like, I almost feel like I have all these pen pals, because like you said, the quality of the response, there's something about that like one-to-one response, and they always surprise me in who they're from, where those people live, and where it's coming in from. A researcher, I cited a researcher, for example, recently who did a bunch of work on the importance of FaceTime for building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
She lives in Europe and she just emailed me through posting it through the newsletter and thanked me for using her research. And it's like, how else would I have ever heard from this
Right.
person?
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
I love if I'm going to include someone, I like to go and let them know, like, hey, I read your article about this. I think it's perfect for my next issue. I just wanted you to know I'm going to include it. And so that kind of forges the start of that relationship. But the fun is, you're right, like later when they realize it has been included and now suddenly you've somehow networked into a relationship that grows beyond that little moment in time.
Yeah.
Cool. So I want to let people know where they can find you online to subscribe. I feel like someone shared a link with me and I got through LinkedIn, possibly. Like someone was like, I love these 5 newsletters, and yours was one of them. And so that's how I found my way. But anybody watching, what steps would they take?
Yeah. So here's another tip for folks. Like, you may not have all the stuff you need at once. So I knew someone who had a paid Bitly account and I asked them if they could make me a custom Bitly. So I'm, borrowing a Bitly from a friend. So it's just bit.ly
Yeah.
/WriteWork is my like go-to link where people
Okay.
can find me. And then also on Twitter is really where I spend a lot of my time. So
Okay.
at Leah Ryder is my Twitter, and I have the link in the bio here as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
And we will include that in the description when this gets posted on YouTube. So if anyone watches this far and doesn't feel like typing those things in, they can go click.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would say to someone who is like on the brink of or considering like what they want to do with either their creativity, or if they're like potentially in between jobs right now and considering a newsletter launch as part of their portfolio building or networking, that you would tell them like things they might want to think about or lessons you've learned that you could help them bypass?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I was inspired by with this is actually one of my interviewees, Lee Price.
Mm-hmm.
Her website is leepriceideas.com. She's amazing. She does a lot of work on how to be an influencer or how to have a voice. And I think sometimes we feel maybe we have like imposter syndrome, or we think like, I don't know if I have enough to say to like have a newsletter and share my opinion on a regular basis. But that's why being a connector and an amplifier of voices is so great. And that's the approach that I took. So you don't always have to, it doesn't all have to come from your brain and your ideas in order to make a difference and an impact.
I love that. I have imposter syndrome a bit sometimes, but I also have like that journalist mentality that other people, like I surround myself or want to surround myself with people who know more than me, and then to connect those people and help them do great things and learn as I do that. So I think what you're saying that a lot of people could benefit from is that if you're not the thought leader you want to be, or if you're intimidated because you feel like you should know more, the best way to get to that point is to talk to the people who are what you think you want to be and ask them lots of questions, just like I'm doing with Leah right now.
Exactly. Well, that's why I really liked what you're doing with this video series, because it's the same thing that I'm doing.
It's been really fun.
Giving people the chance to share their ideas and using the network that you have to get it out there. And I think we all want to apply like our big marketing campaign approach to the work. And I do that for my job every day. We run huge campaigns, but so it's been really nice to take the word of mouth approach on this. I have like a decent amount of subscribers now. I was actually surprised at how many people have been signing up, but because of the community effect, my engagement rates are really high. Like the open rate on my welcome newsletters like 67%.
That's awesome.
And I average at least 50 to 55% open rate each send, if not higher. And so it's been really nice because I know that people are actually wanting it and wanting to read it, which
Newsletters can
I'd
do
rather
that.
get 10 subscribers a week and have 8 of them open it than get 100 and have 2 people open it.
I linked to, I don't know when this will post, so anybody watching this will have to like do the math and go back however many weeks. But I linked to recently, I think it was in issue 5, so that'll help people, an article that Vincent somebody, I can't remember his last name right now, wrote. And it was like, basically, if you're worried about list size, you're worried about the wrong thing, because what you need to be worried about is engagement. And his article was less about newsletters and more about marketing in general, but it was the same premise that you can either get people on your list by bribery and then they're not super engaged because you said, give me your email, I'll give you something, or you can just give them something and they sign up for it and you're providing value after value after value, like something engaging or exciting or fun to read, then obviously that's going to get a higher open rate than the trick, like the bait and switch. And now I'm going to send you tons of promotional content that you didn't want when you thought you wanted this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
I'm seeing a lot of newsletters, like our customers put, they have the option to put like a little picture of themselves. I mean, like they can put anything, but there's a trend lately and I'm using it because I go and find all their best ideas and obviously execute them. And I think there's something really special about like knowing who the email is coming from or having like a person's voice in there that holds them accountable for whatever they're representing, whether that is a brand or a solo venture or even an editorial newsletter. Like there's something much more intimate about this feeling like an email from one person to another with like really great content versus the unknown entity who pressed send or scheduled that send for exactly the right moment when it would make sure that the open rate was highest.
Yeah, and the irony is we're all making them regardless. Like the Trello newsletter, we take a lot of time to curate each piece we put in. We write all of the copy. We look at what our readers have been enjoying and we make more of that, include more of that. Like we spend a lot of time thinking about the reader and what we want. So why not have it come from the people who made it? Because there are people on both sides of the screen anyways.
Does it come from Taco?
It comes from Taco. Yay! So it does come from Taco. Everybody loves Taco. We love Taco too.
I remember the first time I like opened my Gmail and saw a dog and I was like, wait a second, who am I getting? That's a perfect, like, and that is another great newsletter tip. If you are sending it as an individual and it's coming through like a Gmail account that you can associate a picture with, like get a picture in there that's not the wrong person, because I've gotten brand emails that are coming from one person, like the person is saying, I'm sending you this, but it's a picture of another person. Or use something super unique like what Morning Brew does that is like highly recognizable and something that they're going to see every time they open Gmail and go like, oh, this is going in the list of things I want to open.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything else we should tell the viewers about Werk or newsletters in general? It's Werk with an E. Work with an E, people.
Work with an E. Yeah, I think just if you're thinking about starting a newsletter, just start.
That's great advice.
Yeah, just dive in.
Yeah,
get creative.
It's really a gratifying experience, I think. And it's kind of a toss back to an old school mentality. They keep saying it's like a resurgence, right? Like newsletters like resurge every 5 years.
It's
and
true.
Then some do so well that big media companies buy them up and then you need more independent ones. But the digital content platform, I mean, like not the content platform, but the landscape of digital content is just changing so rapidly. It's kind of nice to have something comforting that like, yes, we can do innovative things within newsletters and emails, but that we don't have to like abandon that channel as if it has lost its luster. It's actually still super profitable for some brands. And it's also like an app that I'm never going to delete off of my phone.
No, I think we've moved past the email is dead conversation.
Yeah.
I think we've moved past the newsletters are over conversation as well, because this as everything around us speeds up, and the frame rate of tweets coming through our feeds accelerates, that being able to control what's coming into our inbox and then having those like and saving them for like a Sunday when you want to dive into a few things that mean a lot to you. That's not going to change, which
Do
is
you
really nice.
notice, this is a good question for you because you have long form in your newsletter. Do you notice, because I've seen it with mine on occasion, because I tend to go long, or I just pack so much in there that you couldn't possibly read it all in one, like 10 a.m. at work on Tuesday kind of situation. But do you notice that the open rate like increases over time, or the clicks will start to happen like on the weekend or at some bizarre other time that like it's probably good to not like look right up close at the metrics of a newsletter. It's good to let them kind of simmer and then grow as people return.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. So I publish on Tuesday mornings, and I try not to peak. I mean, I kind of, you can't help it. You want to look. But I honestly, I don't take stock of like, how did this newsletter do until after Sunday of that week, because I do notice it's like a slow climb. And I often get people posting about it on LinkedIn or on social, like a full week to week and a half after the send went out, because people are saving it and then reading it when they have time. So it's also kind of like, if you're going to do a long form, think about your cadence, because if it takes people a week and a half to like read it, but they will read it, do you want to be doing 2 a month, or is it better just to keep it monthly and ask people for their time once a month?
Yeah, I think that's super smart. I think there's also something to the idea of, if you're doing long form, not having anything in there that's so timely that if someone really dug in a week later, even though they opened it on Tuesday and they wait until Saturday, nothing in there that's so timely that they've now missed some opportunity that you were talking about. And that goes back to like Mary Ellen Slater and I were talking about the old days of when we were on magazine staffs and you would like be celebrating Christmas in July in your mind because everything had to be so far out in print. You've got a lot more liberty with digital and newsletters, but you still, like, if you're coming out on a Tuesday, don't expect everyone to know all the news you shared by Thursday.
Yeah, it's a different style. Like a morning brew, you should read it when it comes out because they're going to send you one tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different from the one today.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm curating long form, evergreen opinions from content marketers. So like you said, the content should reflect the same.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very, very much for spending time with us today. This should come out in a couple of weeks, and I will give you a big announcement about that too. But I want everyone to go check out Werk. Get signed up if you're into content marketing. She's got a lot of great interviews in there in the back issues that you could basically spend your entire Sunday going through. And something seems appropriate to me about that happening on like a fall day with like your sweater on and trying to do something that feels comforting in the midst of what has been like a very unstable emotional time for all of us.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you need some creative inspiration from other people and not me who are doing lots of great things, come on by and read it.
You'll get inspiration as well from Leah. Don't worry.